So after arrays, objects are another type of data structure that we have in JavaScript. So far we have used array to create a container that holds different types of data types together. Now we can do the similar thing by creating an object as well, but there is a difference between an array and an object. So I'm just going to write it here. That is, array is ordered and object is unordered. It will become crystal clear just in a moment. Let's analyze both of them a little bit in details. Okay, so array is ordered. What does it mean? It simply means that the data that you have inside of this array are ordered. So if you want to access John Wick, which considerably can be called as the first name, then you will access it by its indexing position. Then his age can be accessed with its indexing position, that is 1. So 0, 1, and similarly to access any of the data, you will have to use its indexing position. So this is ordered. Array is ordered, and by the way, I have just created a simple array and just put all of them into a separate line to make it look more readable. Okay, so don't get confused. Previously it was looking like this. Okay, so something like this. So let's now see what is an object. So an object is a group. It's also just like a container with different data types. So to create an object, you again declare a simple variable. I'm just going to call it person. I'm just going to keep it very simple. And then for array, you used these brackets, right? For object, you use these curly brackets. So just like CodeBlock, okay? And inside this, you declare your data. So in array, you directly declare the data, and those data can be later accessed with their indexing position. But the same cannot be done in an object. So inside an object, to create a data, you'll have to use something called as key value pair. So let me write the comment key value. So here you define the key and then you give it a value. So for example, this John Wick can be called as first name. Okay, so let's replicate this entire array in the form of an object. So I'm just going to call it first name. So this is the key of this person object, and then to provide it a value, you do not write this equal sign but this colon, and here you write the value. So in our case we have John. Now if you want to declare another key value pair, separate it with a comma and then declare it. I'm just going to say last name colon week, and then age to be 47, has a dog, which is false. Okay, false. Now this entire part is called a property of this object. So if I hover over this key, you will see it says property first name having a data type of a string. So this is key, this is value. Together they are called as key value pair and then referred as a property of this person's object. So I'm just simply going to do console.log person. You see this very simple object here in the console. Now if you want to access data inside of this object, you can use two ways. So here you can access it by using dot notation and bracket. So bracket notation. Let's see both of them one by one. So here if you want to access data for age or has a dog, just take the property name. So let's say last name. Okay, so let's take last name, copy it, and then here you simply say person.last name, and then person.last name will give you this week. And you see when I click person, can you see this become active? So person, and when I click last name, you see last name becomes active. So if you save it, you get week. And if you want another data, you can just say dot, and now you can see that it is already suggesting us that, hey, do you want first name, has a dog, last name? But this code editor already figured out that these are some additional properties that we have on this person's object, so user might need them. So yeah, let's access one of them, has a dog. If I save, there you go, we get false, has a dog, false, he was killed. Okay, and another one is by bracket notation. So here after person, you simply write this bracket just like an array, and inside this you pass this string and then you refer this key. So just like this, you don't pass this one, don't do this, it will be an error. Okay, if I save this, it says reference error, first name is not defined. You will have to pass this in this string format. So now this is bracket notation. So if you save this, you get John. Similarly, if you want age, just copy this, paste it, and now it will give you this age. So this is a very simple object. Now, did I told you that object can have multiple types of data as well? So remember, in previous video, inside an array we inputted an object, I think. Yeah, so same can be done with an object as well. So let's take this array, copy this array, and here I'm going to paste it, but of course we'll have to pass the key as well. I will say additional data and colon this array. So now if you save it, now you'll see this object will have an array as well, that is additional data. And now you can see that this is unordered. We have additional data here in the last, but additional data is appearing on top of it. So this is clearly unordered, but an array is ordered. Okay, and so this is a very simple object. Now additionally, there is one more thing that we need to understand when understanding objects. These are methods. So remember, in previous video while learning objects, we applied few built-in methods that we have in JavaScript to apply on array, such as shift, unshift, post, pop. So let's now try to understand what are methods. So I'm just going to write a simple comment. Methods are simple function inside of an object. So if someone asks you any day that what is a method, just tell them that a method is a simple function that is inside of an object. So remember, in fundamental section I told you that functions are actually values in JavaScript, and so when you have a value, you can store that into a variable, right? So we can definitely create a key value pair to write a function right here. Okay, so let's assume that we do not have the age of John Wick and we just have birth here. So I'm just going to say birth year, age 1980. Okay, let's assume that John Wick was born in 1980. So let's now write a function that would calculate the age of John Wick based on this birth year. So here I'm going to say calc age colon a function that takes this birth year, and then from here we are simply going to say console.log 2025 minus birth year. Okay, and so this is a method. So this calc age is actually a method on this person object. So if you want to call it, you just have to say person dot calc age. See, you don't console.log. Why? Because this is already consoling. So this calc age is a function. Okay, so when you have a function and if you want to retrieve data inside of a function, you call it, right? So here you'll have to call it. But if you do something like this, console.log person dot calc age, let me comment this one out. If you think that if you do this one, then you'll get the age. If you save it, you get the entire function as the output. So no, don't do this, because then it will return you this entire function, because you are actually saying that person dot calc age. So what is this calc age? This calc age, this entire function. So it returned you this entire function. But no, you want the birth year, right? So what happened here? Okay, let's go to console real quick. Okay, so if you want this birth year, we are already saying that, hey, but take this birth year and then console.log 2025 minus 1980, which would actually evaluate to 45, right? So here you don't do this, but here you just do this. So person.calc age, call it. So person.calc age will be called, resulting into this one. So if I save this, now you say, okay, we get none. Why do we get the none? Let's figure out why did we get not a number. And so the reason why we are getting this none as the output is that we are calling this function, but we aren't passing any values to it. So here you can see we have received a parameter birth here, but we haven't passed any value. So here you can say 1980 as the default value, and now if you save, you'll get 45. But again, can you see one problem here? we are passing this 1980 value manually. So if we have to pass this 1980, that is the birth year, manually, then why do we even have this key that has the birth year stored in it? How can we use this variable rather than passing values manually? Well, for that you will have to understand the concept of this. So if you want to use this default value, let's get rid of this one, and here inside this just refer this dot birth year, and let's get rid of this parameter as well because we no longer need this. So when you say this dot birth year, this keyword simply points to the current object that is calling this method. So in general English, this simply means that this dot birth year will now point to person dot birth year, because this is a keyword that targets the current object that is calling the method. So this dot birth year will be equivalent to saying person dot birth year. So now we no longer have to pass the birth year manually, but when you say this dot birth year, it will simply target person dot birth year. Now this is very fundamentals of this. We are going to cover this in little detail as well, but right now I just wanted to make it a little clear. So if I say console.log, I know it might be going over your head, so let me show you something. If I say console.log this, I'm logging out the entire this. So this log will actually tell you that where this keyword is pointing, and when I will save it, you will see this person, this entire person object. So if you save, you get this entire person object. So this keyword is pointing on this entire person object. So when you say this dot birth here, so what is this? This is this person now. So when you say this dot birth here, it will simply means person dot birth year, which is 1980. So this entire statement will be evaluated to 1980, resulting into 45 printed here in the console. So this is method. Methods are very simply a function inside an object. Now you can enhance this method as well. So now after ES6, I think we no longer have to use this function as well. So if you want to enhance this method slightly, get rid of this function and this colon as well, and there you go. This will be clearly same as this one. So this is enhanced method. So if you save this, you'll see there is no difference at all. Okay, so this is a very simple example of objects data structure in JavaScript. Let's move forward and try to understand some more advanced concepts in JavaScript, and I hope you got a lot out of this lecture. So yeah, do make sure to like the video and subscribe the channel. I will see you in the next one. Till then, stay safe, happy coding.